How's it going, family? Powerful I am. It's your guy, 50 the Mystic. Let's start the new week afresh this Sunday. Carrying on with the book of Exodus. We're still on the Ten Commandments. Today, we're covering Exodus 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. This is not necessarily primarily about a calendar day. It is about remembrance, consciousness, and inner orientation. The word remember is key. It means to return to awareness of origin, order, and purpose. The Sabbath represents sacred stillness, the pause where creation reconnects with its source. To remember the Sabbath is to remember who you are beneath activity, production, identity, and survival itself. The 6 days of labor symbolize engagement with the material world, effort, striving, ego, construction, and identity formation. The seventh day represents transcendence of doing into being. It is the space where creation stops expanding outward and turns inward. Keeping it holy means setting apart a dimension of life where the soul is not measured by output, worth, or utility. Spiritually, this verse addresses forgetfulness. Humanity forgets itself in movement, ambition, fear, and repetition. Sabbath is the symbolic act of re-anchoring consciousness back to truth. It is refusal to let life become endless labor without meaning. Does it sound familiar to a lot of people? The endless labor that your life is literally for 40, 50 years, just going to a job, coming home, feeling drained. The scam that everyone's told. Find yourself doing the things you love so everything doesn't feel like a tortureful labor. To forget the Sabbath is to forget your source and eventually yourself. Holiness here does not mean religious restriction. It means separation from noise, chaos, and compulsion. Sabbath is the inner sanctuary, the mental and spiritual state where identity is no longer tied to performance. It is the realm where creation rests because it recognizes itself as complete. This command is revolutionary because it interprets the illusion that constant effort equals value. That's what most of us think. And then we're surprised that all this constant effort doesn't really give the value that we think it does. It declares that rest is not laziness, but alignment. Remembering the Sabbath symbolizes remembering divine order, remembering balance, and remembering that creation flows from being, not exhaustion. Therefore, it invites you, the scripture, to reclaim your sacred rhythm as humanity. Without Sabbath consciousness, life becomes mechanical. With it, life becomes meaningful. Rest becomes worship. Stillness becomes power. And remembrance becomes restoration. Because at the level this all happens, it speaks directly to the neurological rhythm recovery and cognitive balance. Remember the Sabbath is an instruction to the brain to exit perpetual survival mode and re-enter restorative coherence. You cannot always want to overload the brain to the state of the brain suffocating itself. The human nervous system is not designed for constant stimulation, decision-making, and stress. Without intentional rest, the mind fragments, attention degrades, and emotional regulation collapses. The Sabbath represents a shift from sympathetic dominance, fight or flight, into parasympathetic regulation. Rest, digest, and repair. When this shift does not occur regularly, cortisol remains elevated, the immune system weakens, sleep quality deteriorates, and clarity diminishes. The brain loses its ability to integrate experience into wisdom. Remembering the Sabbath restores neural integration. The rest in itself is not passive. During periods of stillness, the brain clears metabolic waste through the lymphatic system. Memories consolidate and emotional processing stabilizes. Muscles release stored tension. Breathing deepens and hormonal balance begins to reset. To ignore this rhythm is to override the body's design. Keeping the Sabbath holy at the bodily level means protecting spaces of non performance. It means allowing the body to exist without demand. This is not indulgence, it is maintenance of the system itself. Just as muscles grow during rest, the psyche matures during stillness. The Sabbath prevents identity collapse. When a person never rests, their sense of worth fuses with productivity. And this is the system that we are currently living in. Worker bees, always busy, 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 never resting. I always tell people, and then people are surprised. Work output becomes dismal. People become irritable. Like, you're just not getting what you want from people out there in the office space. Because people are tired. And I'm talking about people that actually work and they burn themselves out. I'm not talking about lazy people that don't work. This leads to burnout, irritability, and loss of meaning. The Sabbath interrupts this fusion, reminding the mind that existence precedes achievement. Therefore functions as a neurological safeguard. It is a command not because rest is optional, but because without it, the system fails. To remember the Sabbath is to remember your biology. When the mind honors rest, the body heals, perception sharpens, and life regains depth. And you need to understand it. It reveals the principle of rhythm itself. Life works in a rhythmic fashion of sorts. Cycles and ordered pause. Hey, there's seasons of harvest and there's seasons of sowing. Think of it in that manner. Nothing in nature operates without rest. The earth rotates, seasons change, tides rise and fall, even stars pulse between expansion and stillness. Sabbath is the cosmic pause built into creation. To remember it is to align with the rhythm that sustains all systems. The law of creation unfolds in cycles of exertion and recovery. Continuous output without pause leads to collapse. Think of the account of creation in itself. You see, the seventh day is the day of rest, the day of completing what has been done. The number 7, the number of completion in itself. Rest is important, even though people think it is not. Fields must lie fallow. Predators rest between hunts and ecosystems regulate themselves through balance. When this rhythm is violated, decay accelerates. Sabbath is the law that preserves life by preventing depletion. The command to remember implies that this rhythm is easily forgotten in systems driven by accumulation and urgency. When human systems ignore rest, they become extractive. They take without remove or renewal. Nature responds with resistance, breakdown, and exhaustion. This is not retaliation, it is correction. Holiness here means alignment with universal order. A system that honors rest remains fertile. A system that rejects rest becomes brittle. Sabbath is therefore not religious, it is structural. It is the point where energy is restored so creation can continue without distortion. This law also applies energetically. Constant mental noise lowers frequency. Stillness raises coherence. When activity pauses, awareness expands. Insight arises. Creativity returns. Nature uses silence as much as motion to communicate. It teaches that forgetting Sabbath breaks harmony. Remembering it restores flow. This is why cultures that ignore rest experience burnout, ecological damage, and spiritual emptiness. They violate rhythm and suffer the consequences. This cosmic law does not demand endless striving, it demands balance. Sabbath is the recalibration point. When honored, systems self-correct. When ignored, systems self-destruct. Now, this in itself challenges modern life at its core, as I've been discussing throughout this teaching. Remembering the Sabbath means intentionally designing rest into your life rather than collapsing into it from exhaustion. It requires planning stillness with the same seriousness you plan work. It's not about inactivity, it's about conscious withdrawal from noise, pressure, and constant output. In daily life, this means creating protected spaces where you are not producing, selling, proving, or performing. No metrics, no deadlines, no identity reinforcement through productivity. Sabbath time can include silence, reflection, prayer, nature, meaningful connection, or restorative creativity. But it must be free from compulsion. This in itself, when it is applied, this verse also demands boundaries. If everything is urgent, nothing is sacred. I remember I used to have a boss who I swear every single thing was urgent. Everything I needed ASAP. I needed ASAP. I needed ASAP. I was like, I don't really think everything can be important all at once. But that's how some people are, but mentally unstable. You must choose what stops so that something deeper can start. This may mean turning off devices, saying no to certain demands, or resisting the guilt attached to rest. Rest is not earned, it is required. In work and leadership, Sabbath thinking prevents burnout and poor judgment. Decisions made from exhaustion are rarely wise. When rest is honest, clarity returns, priorities reorder, and long term vision strengthens. Productivity actually improves because energy is no longer leaking. In relationships, Sabbath creates presence. When you are rested, you listen better. You respond rather than react. Emotional availability increases. Rest restores empathy. Ultimately, this asks a simple question of you: who are you when you stop doing? If your sense of worth collapses in stillness, Sabbath reveals where healing is needed. If peace emerges, Sabbath confirms alignment. To remember the Sabbath is to remember that life is not sustained by effort alone. Stillness is not a luxury, it is a law that has been given unto all of us. And I will be expanding in the next section on Exodus 20, verse 9, where we'll be actually going into the other 6 days. And it says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Till the next one, family. Stay blessed. Stay safe.